Tonight on the Game On podcast, Adelaide finally get their man with a few minutes to go in the trade period. And Port Adelaide secure a South Aussie star, but at what cost? And the young gun has a tough first day out at the MCG as the test spots heat up. All right, let's do this. Welcome to the Game On podcast. My name's Pete, once again joined in the studio by Malcolm. And normally we start off with good of the week, but unfortunately this week we have to pay tribute to the late Wally Miller.
Yep, very much so. Oh, look, Wally, remarkable man. Best memory I've ever met in anyone. I asked him a question when I was interviewing him, and he replied with 13th of August 1958. And I've gone, oh, come on, Wally, can't you at least give us the time of day as well?
Yes.
You know, polio after the accident with Don Lindner, who he stayed very good friends with, and that, because it was just an accident.
Yes.
Turned out they think in times that there was damage done in that collision on the spine, and then that also released the polio virus, which then came. So Wally never walked again. Look, he'd also lost his wife, Anthea, and his their daughter, Sally,
Yes,
as well. Sally died of breast cancer in 2000. So he's, look, gone through a ridiculous amount as well. But as a football administrator, for me, he's number one.
Yes.
He's a visionary. He was a huge part. Him and Robert Odie were actually the visionaries to start up modified rules footy.
Yep.
So just a lot of things as well. So yes, while he was Norwood, he was way more than just Norwood. A remarkable man. They public send-offs next Wednesday.
Yep.
So.
Well, obviously, we've had a lot of guests on the show so far with our past players, past legends. It all sort of came back to Wally in some way, shape, or form, especially through the 70s, 80s, and 90s there. And there'll be a lot of people that will, sadly miss, obviously, Wally there. I never got the chance to meet him. I would have loved to have interviewed him or spoke to him and just picked his brain a little bit.
Probably while I knew Wally right from as a youngster, Wally organised Alan Killigrew to coach us at Norwood High when I was in fourth year.
Yep.
So it was a huge privilege to be coached by Killer, and Wally was there most weeks. So I was like a kid
in a candy store.
With what, and I got on brilliantly with Killer. I had a fair bit from then on to do with Alan until he left us.
Yes.
Alan did organise Bob Skilton, triple Brownlow medalist, to do our school presentations.
Yep.
And he introduced me to Skilt, saying, this guy is the best football brain I've ever coached. And Skilt stood up tall and thought he's about to be introduced to a champion, followed by Killer going, pity he can't play.
Yep. And
I burst out laughing. Skilt saying, you can't say that. I said, no, I'm shit. I'm just rapt. He rates my footy brain.
Yes.
And Wally, as I said, he was there each week. We spoke a lot about Carmel Court, the Bert Balderstone's influence as well.
Yep.
So, look, Wally was a person, every time you spoke to him, you learned something.
Yep.
And there's not very many people you can say that.
Absolutely.
And, he was, an incredible man. Yeah.
And one last thing, something's come across our desk today there that unfortunately the passing of a close person to you.
Look, hasn't been a great week. All the best to KRIEVS, as you know, our sponsor was OUWENS CASSERLY. His dad Gunnar, he's a good man, Gunnar, character, involved with both Uni Footy Club and cricket clubs, captain Uni Cricket Club to a premiership, played for Uni in quite a few different grades, including A1.
Yep.
He was always a gentleman whenever caught up with him. I only saw him a bit here and there, but he was always fantastic company.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I just had one of you today, and I've just got off the phone on the way, as you could see walking in. And look, all the best to Steve Harry Faulkner from Payneham on the loss of his wife Vicky. And it's, as I said, have had better weeks.
Absolutely. Mate, we wish those families all the best. We send our condolences, and unfortunately, life happens, and we have no control over it. Unfortunately,
we don't. And look, whether it's the right time to bring it up or whether it shouldn't be brought up at all, but whatever. But my bad of the week, total and thorough disgust with the media who reported Wally Miller had passed away.
Yes,
before he had, and the family having to release a statement. Hey, Dad's gravely ill, but he's still with us at the moment. Disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful and unforgivable for some media outlets, and the whole race to be first, and the lack of contrition and the lack of
getting your facts right.
Right. Your penalty lot. We can have an opinion on sport in here. That doesn't mean you or I are right, whatever. But releasing someone's passed away before they had, for mine, is just a massive, massive no-no.
Yep.
And bitterly disappointed with Rucci and some other media.
Yep.
No, it was poor.
We did talk about that a couple of weeks ago with some, trade news and bits and pieces like that. Some irresponsible journalism. I think on this case, whoever has done that needs to probably get a swift kick up the bum as to getting your facts right and checking them before you actually go to the story.
Especially this topic. I'm sorry. Whether there's a mistake on a trade or whatever, yes, it shouldn't happen, but it's not the same as a death.
I totally agree with you.
That's my massive beef for this week.
All right, mate, let's get into Around the Grounds.
Around the Grounds.
All right, mate, we're going to talk a little bit of the cricket, the the AFLW, and some basketball, but we're going to kick off with the AFL still. Darcy Fogarty for the Crows signs a contract extension to keep him at the Crows until 2031. That's a 6-year extension.
Yeah. Way too long for mine. I'm a bit bemused with all these huge long contracts. Anyway.
Do you see that obviously Tex is going to be retiring, I would assume, next year? Good opportunity to lock Darcy in?
Yes, it is, but you can also argue still that, hang on, he's only fulfilled he was a lot more consistent this year. This was probably the first step. Previously, he'd been patchy, show a bit. I think he kicked 5 in a game against West Coast and then went goalless the next 3 weeks and sort of things like that.
Yep.
He's become better, but I'm sorry for mine. Yeah. I'm not in favour of these big, huge contracts.
Well, that was what I was going to ask you. Clubs are employing tactics, I suppose, to lock in long-term deals. Is it a case of them locking those long-term deals in to give them a bit of flexibility when it comes to maybe trading and moving players on?
Yeah. Then you've got like the one with the ludicrous thing where Gold Coast wanted Lukosius out.
Yes.
And for a big while there, and he doesn't want to go. He actually still wanted to stay at Gold Coast.
Yep.
He's just done in the last 6 months house extensions, finished off the pool, done all of that, and then virtually forced to come back here.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like they were going to have to pay a big part of his salary cap at one start. And
Yep.
It's like Port now with Cleary, pay his salary out. Like, if any of us make a mistake in our workplace for $300-400 grand, good luck.
Yep.
I just think there's too many things like that.
Ifs, buts, and can't.
Yeah, I just think in some regards, it's a very unprofessional industry.
Yes.
So it's bizarre.
Is it a case we're following the English US sort of system here with these longer term deals and potentially trading those players out with those contracts?
And then becomes a salary dump, and then you had the whole case of Oliver where they couldn't really move him, whatever, because no other club could afford him and that. So it's a bit like Melbourne. Who knows what are going to happen in Melbourne this year? And you had 2 players who wanted out who got forced to stay there. Mm-hmm. So it's strange.
A question without notice. Do you see Oliver? I didn't have this on the run sheet, but do you see Oliver getting out next year?
Oh, look, he's a different cat, so who knows? Who knows? He might.
Because you know how back. These things tend to work. Yeah. 1 year they go, I want out. They don't get out. Generally, the following year, something happens.
Yeah, but that salary's still there.
Yep.
And all that. Look, he's probably a different case. He's likely to all of a sudden love Melbourne again. So you just don't know with him.
Yep.
You really don't.
Yep.
Petrarca, I think, with what's happened there and the family, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I'd go more that one.
Okay.
So let's wait and see.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's move over to Port. Just before we move off Adelaide there. Obviously, Adelaide I rate Adelaide's trade period as probably one of their better ones for quite some time. Yep. You obviously being an Adelaide follower, probably a touch more than what I am, even though I do follow them. How did you rate their trade period?
Oh, pretty good. I think they're in getting Peatling, who 6 clubs were after.
Yep.
Is a tick. Cummings obviously is a free agent. Hopefully his friendship with Tex played a part there.
Yep.
Wayne, his dad Wacker was confident it would. Mm-hmm. So in that way.
And injury wise, you'd back the Crows to probably get him right.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yep.
Hopefully. So.
And Alex Neil-Bullen.
Yeah, good player. Look, I think 25. They've paid overs for him, but he was on contract still, so you always pay overs for someone under contract.
Well, that pick essentially was what Melbourne gave Adelaide for Shane McAdam. Yeah. So when you look at it, that's a bit of a straight swap. Who are you taking, McAdam or are you taking Neil-Bullen?
Oh, you're probably taking Neil-Bullen for the consistency, but McAdam's X factor when he was on was big, but unfortunately he doesn't play enough.
Yep. Alex Neil-Bullen, apparently from all reports, great leadership, great, behind the scenes, very inclusive. So I think Adelaide, that's what they need more of, if that makes sense.
They do need some leaders. There's no doubt about that.
Rory Sloane was probably that person before he retired. Now they've got Alex Neil-Bullen. So,
and they're about to lose Walker, who's probably their main leader, really.
Yep.
So,
do you see Fogarty stepping up into that role, or maybe a Thilthorpe?
Yeah, hopefully Dawson's leadership keeps going. So, but that's where Neil-Bullen comes into the equation, no doubt about that.
Question I noticed for Adelaide there, Dawson felt like he had the world on his shoulders at times this year, and you could almost see it.
Yeah.
Do you see that boosting of these sort of players that have been around for a little while now, sort of helping him out a little bit? Do you see him freeing him up? That's probably my question.
Oh, look, hopefully Peatling goes into the middle and performs. Soligo progresses and gets a bit more consistent. Body fills out. Body copes with the everyday bash and crash a bit more.
Yep.
Hopefully Legg then goes back to either a half-back flank or back pocket or doesn't play.
Yes. That's one option that not many have considered so far.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the out of that. So hopefully that strengthens up the midfield, and Cumming gives a person with a good kick.
Yep.
And that is something Adelaide desperately do lack, is elite disposal by foot.
So Adelaide's backline's looking like Michaelani, Butts, Murray, Cumming, Keane and Hinge.
And Worrell. I think Worrell plays before Bart. But so it's a cat. At least there's a bit of depth back there and competing for spots.
Yep. Which is one thing that Adelaide has probably lacked in the last.
And then KRIEVS is in the mix there, and I think he could be pretty important as the dashing run and carry defender.
Yep.
So
could you get him up onto a wing?
I think that becomes more Hinge possibility. So
right.
Anyway,
and then what do you do with Lockie Scholl?
I think he's on the other wing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Cumming then goes half back or in the midfield.
Yep. So. Obviously, with Adelaide recruiting quite well, you would expect that all three of those players would make their best starting 22, I suppose, for round one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Does someone like Billy Dowling, Shelley, do they squirt through the middle there? The other one is Pedler, who's almost the forgotten man at the moment.
Yeah, and Pedler can play. He was unlucky this year. I don't think he was well used when he did play. I think he should be in their midfield four. The stats were on the number of percentage of ball ups he was in.
Yes.
He had the best percentage of any Crow player of the clearance.
Yep.
And at least there's a good kick. generally.
Yes.
It's not a dump kick forward to the opposition through just a hack tap, etc.
Yes.
So I think he's pretty important. So, look, at least, again, there's going to be some competing for spots, which it makes your training better.
Sharpens
people
you up a
can't
little bit.
ghost a lot, just cruise along. So, yeah, that'll help.
My other one is probably Dan Curtin and potentially the number 4 pick. Do we see them making that first, 22, 23 for round 1?
I think so. I think both are going to be in the mix, well and truly. Curtin actually performed really well up forward late in the year, so that's a possibility that he plays that third roaming forward role as well. So
does that then release Thilthorpe to be the backup ruckman?
Yeah, be the key forward and then backup ruck when O'Brien's hopefully sent him to Siberia. But anyway, so at least again, there's development. Still frustrates me the lack of ruck.
No, that's fine, and I think that'll change hopefully over the next 18 to 24 months. That's for sure. All right, let's move across the road to Port Adelaide. Travis Boak signs on for 1 more year, taking his career to a 19th season. Is this the right move?
Love Travis Boak. Massive respect for Travis Boak, but personally, no.
Yep.
Look, if you're trying to win the premiership, which every team should be, and Port did make a prelim, what stood out in the prelim, and it wasn't that. There were some other games. As you get older, the consistency comes into it, and your games have some average games and all that. And I just don't think his disposal was always iffy.
Yes.
As you get older, it's fallen away that bit more.
Yep.
And I don't think, therefore, him and Ollie Wines are a good mix. And I still don't think they've ever really sorted that out over all these years.
Yeah, they haven't quite resolved it, have
No.
they? All right, let's talk about how you rated Port Adelaide's trade period now that it's all wound up. Have they gone backwards, or did they look to recruit a couple of delisted players, obviously with some more delistings happening yesterday?
Oh, look, they'll probably, I think it got summed up pretty well that they were a bit unlucky that Houston should have been the main player, but like Richmond's players were in demand and the clubs who were after him had the draft choices. So they've got massive overs for Dan Rioli, 6 and 23. But part of that also, it becomes a bit of a guessing game and a bit of a joke. They've decided that Lombard, who I've only seen twice.
Yes.
And was best on ground again for the Allies. And they've gone, well, we don't want 6 because we can have draft choices later instead of that. So draft choice 6 becomes a pawn for them. So it's a bit ridiculous, the system. So, Richmond for me were the biggest winners out of the whole trade. I
was going to get to that a little bit, but Port Adelaide, do you see them going backwards because of this trade? They've basically got, 2 fringe players and one potential superstar.
They need Ollie Lord to kick on. Now, if you had Ollie Lord and Georgiadis, well, then you could have Lukosius play that floating third, Tom Lynch, roam role, use his elite leg.
Yep.
But that's going to need Ollie Lord to step up. And with obviously still big question marks over Todd Marshall.
Yep.
Now, whether Port in picking Lukosius up have gone, well, deep down we don't think Marshall comes up because Marshall and Lukosius, you can say, are a bit similar, and that. But one thing, if Lukosius gets 60 shots at goals, he's going to kick 40 plus.
Yes.
So that's the other thing. He is a very good kick.
But then that limits them as to how they can utilise that roaming up the ground forward, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just going to be interesting. I think there's a lot of wait and see. For mine, Ports was a bit of this and a bit of that. It seemed to not be one, we're not rebuilding or we're not having a crack. It seemed...
So then where does that leave Kenny Hinkley? I mean, obviously, we've talked about it quite a bit as to where it does leave him because the club's given him direction as far as we want you to, take this group as far as you can, but if they're not quite giving him the entire toolkit to do it, it does make it hard.
I think they thought that more clubs would be after Houston, and he knocked Melbourne back, so that took them out of the equation. So that then and Carlton and Collingwood, and then Carlton decided, I think quite wisely, let's get draft choice 3. Which I think was staggering by West Coast.
Yep. We'll talk about that one in a minute too, because
fucking stupidity.
Well, my team, the Blues, are the beneficiaries of that, and especially considering they're now in the window, or I'd consider them to be in the window.
Yeah.
Pick 3, I think, can only complement that. Do Port Adelaide look at some of these delisted players from other clubs to maybe top up? The big one for me that they obviously released yesterday was Tom Cleary.
And they've got to pay him out.
I found that really surprising.
Yeah. I thought it was more surprising he wasn't used this year at all. And I think it almost became, well, hang on, we've recruited Radaglia, but he should have been dropped a couple of times during the year.
Yep.
Dirk Thatcher was going to be dropped, and then there was a person pulled out, and he came back in and played well that week.
I reckon that was Charlie Dixon.
Yeah, and then he came back in and played well, and then that kept him.
But they're two players that I don't quite see in their best 22.
Well,
but I do now, because they don't have the luxury of someone like a Houston.
I think the problem with Thatcher was there was such a gap between his good and his bad. And he actually showed it in the finals. He was very, very good against Hawthorn, and then he was Scheisenhausen against Sydney.
Yep.
So imagine coaching that. It'd be so frustrating.
All right, Port Adelaide's going to be an interesting watch over the next little period. They do have, we'll talk about this right now, they do have draft picks 13, 29, 36 and 50. That did improve them, obviously, with some of the trading out. That did get them into the...
that draft choice 13 was incredible.
It was the pivoting point for everything, wasn't it?
Oh, it was unreal. Geez, you'd hope it signs up Barry Robin, wouldn't you? Gosh.
You would absolutely hope so. And then, obviously, back over to the Crows, they did, in fact, keep pick number 4 and 64. So they didn't really sort of lose too much, but they gained plenty.
Yeah, a little bit. I was hoping they'd get another, whether it was a futures, to get them back into this. To have Alex Dodson as a possibility, to have him not as a possibility now at all is disappointing for me.
There are still, still trading picks that you can actually go about.
So,
would Adelaide consider splitting pick 4 maybe?
Yeah, I doubt it. I think they may become gun shy about Alex Dodson, because there's words around that he may well be a first rounder.
Yep.
So they may have got gun shy there.
Yep. So their main focus, I would assume, is probably Draper.
You would hope so.
Yep.
I would certainly hope so. If he's available...
3 other clubs won't pick him, then I'd say Adelaide will go
If he's available and Adelaide don't pick him, I'll be shaking my head in disbelief. And I've watched him 15 to 20 times now. I rate him extremely highly.
Having a look at AFL.com.au today, looking out at some of the top draft picks, there's a couple before him that look pretty promising, so I reckon he might get through to 4.
Yeah, look, there's...
And no disrespect against him.
No, look, I'd be surprised if he's not on Carlton's radar for 3 as well. The word there is O'Sullivan, but everyone's just going 2 and 2 there because he happens to be Walsh's cousin.
Yep.
So I think that's probably a bit too much. It's just too easy there. So let's wait and see.
Want and need is probably the big one there. We know what Richmond need. We know what North Melbourne need. We know what Carlton are probably going to go for, but I don't see it being a midfielder, though. That's the only thing for Carlton.
I think they'll pick what they think's the best player.
Yep. Whereas Adelaide are screaming out for a big-bodied midfielder.
Yeah, they are, but I think Carlton will go for whatever they think's the best player at number 3.
Yep.
I really do.
Yep. Anyway, we'll leave that one and watch that one with great interest. All right, let's quickly whiz through some of these hot topics for the AFL. The Indigenous All-Star game has been confirmed against Freo. It's as a fixture for the future. How do you see this one playing out, mate?
Personally,
is it because Indigenous numbers have actually declined?
Yeah, possibly.
They're looking to try and do something?
Which is fair, which is a good reason to try and create that sort of thing. I'm just not sure if I'd rather see more grassroots money put back into MPY lands and things like that, I think might help more than an Indigenous All-Star game.
Yep. Or does this kickstart a 3-year, 4-year plan? Now, that does get me to my next point in a minute, and is that have the AFL dropped the ball a little bit on some of the competitions, especially the women's?
I think they've been staggering with the women's decisions this year. To play the games that close together has... You know, like I rate Sarah Allen, and I rate Sarah Allen for a bit of footy now.
Yes.
You know, I go on about that,
and she
as
looked
you know.
fatigued, didn't she?
But she did. The game against Melbourne, she looked like she needed a motorbike, and I've never seen her like that. Yep. And just using her as an example, I just think it was ridiculous to play the game so close together, because all that did meant the players were fatigued, and it was just more contest, and it was just scrappy. Poorly umpired for mine as well.
Yep.
If you're umpiring an AFLW game, a women's game in general, you've got to umpire it like a kids' game and play plenty of free kicks, pay over the shoulder, pay in the back. They are still laws in the rule book, hardly ever used, and just, you know, and I was with a umpire who has umpired AFL, and we were talking that exact way, where he just said, you've just got to umpire it completely differently, and the umpires aren't.
So that gets me back to my point. Have the AFL lost control of the game, so to speak?
Oh, I think they've had a horrendous year. Yep. Like, to say Dylan and Laura Kane together have been a fail is an understatement. They've been diabolical.
It's a case of that we never really used to hear much from the AFL because everything just ran quite smoothly and there wasn't too much that we had to complain about. Whereas in the last 12 to 18 months, it just seems like every which way you turn and go, there's some sort of issue that's arising from whatever's been done.
It's just been horrendous. And the amount of just lack of honesty. And Dan Menzel, to his credit, nailed it last night. Just lack of listening to the stakeholders. There's no listening to supporters, no listening to the players.
Yep.
It's no, we're high and mighty, and no, to say the women's competition's working is bullshit. It's just crap. Yep. No, be honest.
Yep.
It's just, and that's where Laura Kane has just been. When they had to try to speak on tribunal decisions, you know, they eventually had to remove her from that because she was putting her foot in the mouth so much. It's been an extraordinary, an appointment which amazed everyone, and she's just way, way out of her depth. There's no doubt about that.
All right, talking about the AFL Indigenous All-Star Game, does this mean that the international rules could be brought back on the agenda with multiple Irish players playing not only in the men's competition but also in the women's?
Yeah, possibly. Probably because of the Irish bit, especially probably more on the women's side.
Yep.
Does it become a women? Do we go to the women's side of it first? Because we probably know there's not going to be the
rough and tough and the...
There's not going to be the Gary McIntosh amongst the women to start that up again and dip her and that side of things.
The old mongrel sort of game, yep.
Yeah, so maybe that is a possibility that they go, right, out of the female game, we're going to do this first. I'm not sure, but I do think, especially the numbers and the female side of things, yes, it probably does make sense.
Does the AFL continue to use that strategy potentially as a recruiting tool? Since we did talk about the Indigenous game sort of being used as a promotion to try and get more Indigenous talent playing at the higher level.
Yeah, possibly. I think the clubs are doing that themselves anyway, and that side of things. I think, therefore, as a recruiting tool, I think, again, it comes back probably more importantly on the female side of things, because we need that extra because there's not enough talent. They've grown way too quickly. That's part of the problem with a women's comp as well, a big part.
Well, we've talked about the pyramid base being built from the top,
from the wrong
top,
way, wrong way round. So getting people from Ireland there is probably really important. So, yeah.
It should be an interesting watch, and I'm sure there'll be a few people that'll be good to see it back. Let's circle back to the trade period. Do player managers have too much say when it comes to trade dealings?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it's just interesting to listen to Paul Connors and his summary, and that what happened, what I wanted, and I was sitting there thinking, hang on, So it's not
clubs dealing with clubs; it's clubs dealing with player managers.
And I think it's probably gone a bit far. I think we've got to sort who's got I think the clubs have got to get a bit more control back. I think it's happened a little bit, but there probably needs more and less on the player managers saying do as I say sort of thing.
He's going here no matter what.
Yeah.
When you see player managers running around in corridors last minute trading, you go, hang on, how's that happening? Isn't it the clubs supposed to be dealing with each other?
Yeah, it was a bit bizarre.
It was indeed. We did talk about it a little bit earlier, but your biggie winners from this year's trade period, was it Geelong, Collingwood, Carlton, or another team?
Richmond for me.
Richmond?
Yeah, Richmond easily. Space second. To get 6 and 23 for Rioli and 11 and 18 for Bolton is just extraordinary. They robbed. They were better than Ronnie Biggs with a robbery. So I think they're the big winners. I thought Adelaide did well.
Yes.
Collingwood getting Houston, yes, but they've traded away their first rounder again. They're very much, and they're now talking about picking up Membry. If they do that, I think it makes it 13 players over 31 or something on their list. Good luck. I can see Collingwood having a fall away in the next few years.
That was what I was going to ask.
A massive fall away.
They feel like they're in the premiership window now, but if they don't get it,
good luck.
The next five years,
I think they're going to be right down the. And they're not going to have the choices, and you're not going to be able to do much for the Tasmanian side coming in anyway.
Spot on.
So I think Collingwood at the moment is good luck.
Yep.
It's 25 or bust.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be an interesting watch. I think Adelaide are probably doing the right thing at the moment as far as that age demographic that's just going to carry them through until Tasmania come in, and then
topped a bit of that up, which they had to. There was too big a gap and a lack of 24, 25, 26-year-olders, 27-year-olders there.
Yes.
And they've sort of, they've
that up.
Yeah, to some extent, yes.
Will we realistically see a men's Tier 2 or reserves competition before 2030?
Considering it was meant to happen over 10 years ago now.
That's why I ask.
GWS got the phone call. And I know that for a fact, that they were told, prepare and this, and they actually started signing players up, and then it fell away.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming.
That will turn slowly.
It does, but it's also you're not sure how much money they're losing on the women's comp. The women's payments are going up when there's no crowd there, and I'm just not sure how much sponsorship. I know Adelaide managed to sign up BHP.
Yes,
and Adelaide were actually one of the clubs who was going okay out of females football because of that sponsorship.
Yep.
I just don't know on some of the other clubs on that side of things, and I know at SANFL level that some of the clubs are struggling with having the development league and the extra costing there.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Talk about that one a little bit later, that's for sure. And the last one, mate, Mad Monday, Wacky Wednesday, Silly Sunday. For any type of celebration, has it gone too far?
Yep. Yes, you can argue that they were in a private room and all that, but I'm sorry. Why are you trying to send up 9/11?
Yep.
Send up a rape charge. I'm sorry, it was hideous what they did. Stupidity, poor leadership at the top, and I'm not talking about Toby Green now. I'm talking at the top. Let's get to the point. Geelong do it well.
Yes.
That bit where they took the mickey where they were too old.
Yes.
They all turned up as pensioners and Dangerfield with a walking frame. That was brilliant.
Yep.
That was funny and clever.
Rolled up in a old folks' home bus and bits and pieces like that.
So I think you will have, in fact, I'll be amazed if it's not, that all clubs, you'll say you're going, Peter Matthews has come, and it's a dress up, you'll submit what you're going to go as, and it'll either be ticked off as a yes or no. That's what will happen, and that's what should happen.
Kindergarten rules are coming back.
Well, you've just got to, because it was just so... It was so stupid. People can say, the punishment and all that. Well, no, use a few more brains in the first place.
Yep, absolutely. All right, mate, let's see what's coming up. Adelaide 36ers getting the job done against the Jack Jumpers. Adelaide continue their winning form with another very, very strong performance against Collingwood. and Port Adelaide basically all but secure a final spot this year with a win over St Kilda.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast.
We'll be right back after this short break.
Looking to buy or sell your home anywhere in Adelaide, from the hills to the sea? Meet Gary KRIEVS, your dedicated local agent from OUWENS CASSERLY Real Estate. With unparalleled knowledge of Adelaide's housing market and a commitment to exceptional service, Gary ensures a smooth and stress-free experience for all your real estate needs. Trust the expert, trust Gary KRIEVS at OUWENS CASSERLY Real Estate. Your next dream home awaits. Contact Gary today on 0422 071 317 or on email garyk@ocre.com.au. And for more listings, please visit owenscasserly.com.au. Make it happen. All right, mate, as per usual, we thank our sponsors who help us out on the show here. And if anyone's looking for any real estate advice, Gary KRIEVS is your man.
Yeah, and look, as I mentioned earlier, all the best and sincere condolences to Gary on the passing of his dad, Gunnar.
Absolutely, sending condolences there. All right, mate, let's continue on with Around the Grounds. In the basketball, the Adelaide 36ers are back after playing 3 games in 11 days. They got the job done not only against the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers, but they're looking to do it again against the Taipans here on Friday night.
Yeah, and they were 8 down at half-time too, so to come back from there and then be 11 up at one stage, so it certainly was a change of fortunes.
Absolutely.
And came through, so yeah, good result there in the end.
I did hear an interview with, I think it was Mark Casey, says that he sits near some of the benches there, and he overheard, obviously, the coach sort of explain to the players, almost like a college-type coach, saying, this is how we're doing it, this is why we're doing it, this is the result we're going to get. And that's exactly how it played out.
Yeah. So, look, at least there's progression, and we'll wait and see.
It seems like the new coach has got everybody invested.
Hopefully.
At this stage.
Hopefully.
So, very interesting. If you want to try and get a ticket, I know it's one of the hottest tickets in town, but the Adelaide 36 is playing the Cairns Taipans on Friday night. I think it's Indigenous round, so obviously Guernseys and all of the paraphernalia that you can get your hands on.
I admit I'll be at the parade on Friday night.
Yep.
So.
See how that goes. South East Melbourne coach gets sacked after a 0-6 start. They got their first win under new coach last weekend.
Yeah. At least they didn't lose any early wickets, none for 6.
Yes.
But yeah, bullet, and then there's a win. So
yep.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how that happens in all sports, isn't it?
It's incredible.
It is crazy. All right, mate, let's move on to cricket. I know you'd be loving this at the moment because I certainly am. We'll talk about the Redbacks initially to start with. Day 1 of the Shield game against Queensland.
So it's day 3. It's stumps now.
Yes, but day 1, obviously batting there for 314.
Henry Hunt batting through being the last player to Smith for 136. He nearly batted through the innings. Try to work the ball to 1 to get the strike back, and was the last man out. Oh look, yesterday we did have him 5 for 80, so that was disappointing again. And again, not only they make 308, they put on 40 odd for the last wicket again, and that's the second game in a row where it's happened. And Whitney making his Shield debut, 24 not out off 11 balls, and if they try to bounce him out, I'll be ropeable. I didn't see it, so I'm not sure there, but yeah. Still disappointing there. And then today, we're 9 for at stumps. The great man, Alex Carey, 123 not out.
Yes.
He's now made 362 runs in 2 games. The skipper, Nathan McSweeney, performing again with 72. So 37 in the first innings, 100 odd, made a ton in the first game, and also was run out in the other innings in the first game. So he got 170 odd first game.
Yes.
So he's already at 280 runs himself. So huge progression there, and promising already that we've had 4 centuries in 2 games for South Australia, which be the most, and over 100 run opening partnership in the first innings. So there's been a lot of good things. Massive day tomorrow because not only in the other two games are Victoria going to beat
New South
Wales.
Yes.
WA are going to beat Tasmania. So it's really important we get the result tomorrow. We're 350 out. Whether we declare overnight or whether KRIEVS bats and has a go just for a couple of overs tomorrow. Not sure which way they'll go there. Mm-hmm. At least they've put on 21 for the last wicket so far, of which Buck predictably is not out. Jordan Buckingham.
Yes.
So it's just a big day tomorrow now look, promising from the first game that we fought that game out again and got a draw against New South Wales. Yep. And if KRIEVS actually hadn't got out on the last day,
we're a big chance.
We probably would have got him.
Yep.
So, yeah. So a promising start. Big one-day game after this as well. So, yeah, at least South Australia's in the competition, which... is progression.
I know you don't want to go too early, but... It's some good signs by Rhino there.
And with 2 away games. You could have easily gone, 2 away games, fall away against New South Wales. Then, again, we were 3 for 240 and lost 7 for 50-odd. Mm-hmm. Disappointing again. And deflated last night where they've got back. Henry Hunt gets out first ball of the second innings. Yep. Yeah, so we're 1 for none overnight. I thought,
Yeah.
Today, here's the South Australian collapse coming, and gladly it didn't happen. And well done to Nathan McAndrew as night watchman, making 46, got out first ball of the second session. So, progression there. District cricket wise, around the traps, West Torrens bowled Port Adelaide out for 123. Only made 153 themselves, but. Port Adelaide 1 for 8. Now, Jake Fraser McGurk made his debut for West Torrens on the weekend.
Yep.
Got out for a golden duck on Saturday and a golden duck on Sunday.
Holy moly.
So he's had a big start.
Yes.
Adelaide making 279 against Glenelg, which is a good result. Adelaide have come up from Div 2 against the beaten grand finalist in Glenelg. So they're right in the game, Adelaide, obviously. Mm-hmm. And damn, they've taken stats already off, which is a bit weird, a bit disappointing. I'll remember that for next week.
Yep.
That's not going to reprint. Not happy there.
All good.
T. Gully making 244. Kenzie have got away to a flyer, though. They're none for 82. Their Irish recruit in Donnelly's 50-odd not out. He got runs also in the one-days as well for him.
Yep.
Adelaide Uni, a 7 for 269 overnight against Sturt. I think they will bat on. I'm reliably informed. They'll bat on a few overs. That sort of thing. Yes. So we did talk about that on Sunday. I didn't run in. Look, my highlight was on Sunday, I went to have a look at Port Adelaide in the one-day, West Torrens, against Glenelg in the one-day comp. Spencer Johnson was making his return. From injury. He did a side strain and came back.
Yep.
Bowled absolutely beautifully. 4 for 40. Just so smooth. Probably, I actually said to a couple of people, I'm buggered how come he gets injured because he's got a perfect action. Normally you can, if you look at someone once they've got injured, you go, okay, he's probably a bit too much front on or it's a mixture of front on and side on, and so he's not there. But I'm watching Johnson and Hags and I going, that's beautiful. That's perfect. And it was a very, very impressive return. Kelvin Smith batted beautifully for 87 on Sunday as well. It was a good day's cricket.
Yep.
Just too good. Uni won pretty easily. I got to the end of that game. Sturt, couple other games beat Southern Districts pretty easily in the end. So, and East Torrens beat Prospect easily. So that it's a bit weird. They have 2 rounds of that. Now it stops for a while, and then they then go 1 through to 8. So it sort of makes your first games, or you've only got to sort of win 1 to beat the other 4 teams off.
Yep.
And that's now a mixture, and that's played.
Is that unusual? Has that happened in previous years?
Yeah, I admit I'm a bit bemused by it.
Or is it because of the schedule for the summer this year?
Just not sure. Not sure there, but Yeah, so I did have a quick look, and Kenzie are playing West Torrens. I'll probably go and have a look at that one in the of the quarterfinal stage now.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Anyone needs a book, come see you at that game there.
Definitely, anytime.
Absolutely.
Yes. Only sold one at the game on Sunday. Disappointing.
That is disappointing. Mate, Sam Constas, obviously coming up against the red-hot mayor of the MCG, Scotty Boland, in innings number 1. Is it a bit too much pressure on the young lad?
Yes and no. It was good, though, on a wicket which isn't easy to bat on. Steve Smith failed in both innings. He got a pretty average LBW decision today, to be fair.
Yes.
Just because if you don't play a shot, the rule is the ball's still meant to be going to hit the stumps. You can't just go, that'll do sort of thing. It was a very average decision.
Yep.
Constance got 40-odd today.
43 off 97 balls.
So I think that was promising on an average wicket. So on a wicket which doing plenty. So he's still around the mark. Bancroft failed again.
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody failed. Basically. Yeah.
So I still think Constance is very much in the equation.
It might solve that problem at the top of the order.
I think that Australia A game is going to be big decider as well.
Yep. We've actually got in our flashbacks this week some cricket and Australia v Australia A from the mid-90s. So really looking forward to that. All right, mate, let's talk AFLW. Adelaide backing up with a couple of big wins, cements them in the top 4.
Yeah, it's a lopsided comp out of that way. Look, their big test is Friday night. And it's funny, it's probably the game nearly almost since Adelaide's inception that they'll start the biggest underdog. Like, if you're doing odds this week, the North Melbourne will be very, very short. So it'll be interesting Friday night. Look, and I expect North Melbourne to be way too good. Mm-hmm. But if they could jag a win there, then a home final comes back in the equation. Yep. So
very interesting. And Port Adelaide, obviously getting the chocolates over.
They'll make the 8 now. They'll play finals because they've got Gold Coast and Sydney on memory in the last 2 rounds.
Yep, we'll talk about round number 9. Adelaide, as you said, playing North Melbourne there at, some would say, the home of football at Norwood Oval there.
Flat out on the scoreboard again.
You will. Anyone looking for a book, definitely come up and say hello that time. They play the Suns, obviously, at People First Choice Stadium up there in Queensland. Yeah. So anything can happen there. And then in the last game, which we'll talk about obviously next week, the Cats taking on the Crows and Port Adelaide taking on the Giants. So
Port should make it. They will.
So both Adelaide teams for the first time will play AFLW finals. Very interesting. All right, I won't go through your tips, mate, for this week. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Most of the teams that are up in that top sort of 8 or 9 will probably get the chocolates.
Probably the one surprise was Geelong beating Brisbane on Saturday.
Yep. The other teams that are playing them are all in the top 8 versus the bottom 8, so you'd expect them to win there. All right, mate, let's take a very, very quick break. Coming up, we have Peter Carey Part 3 in our 3-part series. And Greg Blewett talking cricket Part 2.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast.
We'll be right back after this short break.
A dents and scratches putting a dent in your day? Introducing Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide, your trusted solution for automotive woes. With over 2 decades of expertise, Roger Steen Crash Repairs guarantees top-notch service, restoring your vehicle to its former glory in no time. From minor dings to major collisions, our skilled technicians handle it all with precision and care, using state-of-the-art equipment and techniques.
Roger Steen Crash Repairs saved my car. It looks brand new.
Fast, friendly and reliable. I wouldn't trust anyone else with my vehicle. Don't let accidents slow you down. Visit Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide at 14 Penner Avenue, Glynde, for quality service you can count on. And here's a special offer just for our listeners. Mention this podcast and receive a $100 discount on your repair. Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide. Excellence in every repair.
Flashbacks.
All right, to kick off our flashbacks today, since we've been talking all things cricket, we're going to go back to 1995-96, where Australia took on Australia A, and some classic names that are in that.
Yeah, there were some good games, that, and it actually helped. Played a big part in Bluey's test selection. He did well for Australia A. He was in good nick at that time, and of course he then came in and he got wickets against New South Wales.
Yes.
And that played a part in him getting picked, and he made his debut batting at 6 against England and making a ton on Test day debut.
Looking at some of the footage, obviously, as putting this little package together, and McGrath and Hayden squaring off at one stage. So it was on for young and old.
Mark Taylor hated it. He absolutely hated it because we all barracked for Australia A.
Yep.
We barracked for the underdog. Yep. And he hated, hang on, this is ridiculous. I'm playing at home and I'm being barracked against. Yep. You know, I get enough of that when I play overseas.
Yes.
I want people supporting me at home. And I actually think Tubby's attitude there was part of the reason why it got binned.
Yep.
I don't disagree with Mark Taylor's attitude at all.
Absolutely. One thing we should have mentioned with the cricket a little bit earlier on in the segment was New Zealand have had a hell of a week, winning the T20 women's and also winning in India for the first time in 36 years or 26 years.
Yeah, huge results. Yeah, big upset beating South Africa. South Africa were favourites well and truly in that. And, yeah, Susie Bates and Sophie Devine and that, full credit New Zealand there to come through and win it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the huge upset in the incredible bit of bowling amount, and then making over 400. It's only the second time a team has made 40 and then 400.
Yep.
But they did lose in the end. So, yeah, incredible game, fascinating to follow. And they did get to 3 for 400 in the second innings, India, and then they fell away.
Yep.
So,
which is very unlike India, isn't it?
Yeah, their tail can fall quickly at times. Yep. And yeah, great result. Ravinder getting man of the match, made a ton in the first innings and 40. I think he made 129 and 40 something not out, 46 not out, whatever. So.
Fantastic. All right, we'll sit back and watch and enjoy some of the Australia A versus Australia from the mid-90s.
What a start. We want to bog these guys down a bit. Well, good shot again, over-pitched, and that's 4. It's rushing away over the outfield. It's a fast outfield. Into the fence it goes. Very good shot. There's the run rate at the moment. Early days. And another one straight through the gap. That'll be 4 as well. This crowd cheering as that's magnificently played through the onside. Well, that's better. He's hit that one into the gap. He plays that shot well. Smashed that one. It was a little short, a little wide. Well in. That was a quicker one, and McDermott didn't half enjoy that. That one nipped back a little bit, hit the inside edge of the bat, and down went middle stump. That's a big blow for Australia.
There's the cut shot coming into play. A very good one, bringing up the 50 for Australia A.
Well, you couldn't get a better example, could you? And I don't know what was said there between Matthew Hayden and Glenn McGrath. I'll tell you this much, it wasn't friendly. So anyone who thought that this contest today would be a contest of the best of friends on the field, who might be the best of friends off the field, well, this will show you the different picture.
All pretty innocent, really. It's 1 for 53.
That's beautiful bowling. He's tried to work him down the ground once too often, and Captain Mark Taylor takes a well-judged catch. That's superb bowling. That's over the top. That's a good clean hit. That's going all the way to the fence on a half volley. Stood and delivered, Matthew Hayden. Through, and it's through again. Brings up the 100. Mark Waugh hits it down the throat of Slater. Yes, he's gone. Hayden pulling Mark Waugh, long hop straight down the throat of Michael Slater. And that's disappointing. He got to 50 with 7 boundaries, and that's a vital wicket for the Australian side as Jeff Boycott and Tony Gregg take up the commentary.
Boycott used to comment.
Extra time. Big finish.
All right, mate, some cracking cricket highlights there and some very, very good players. I do recommend if you've got time to go and watch it. But let's kick off the extra time big finish with some soccer, mate, or football, as everyone likes to call it. But Adelaide United kick off their season this, Saturday night against Central Coast Mariners.
Yeah, Saturday at 4:30. It was strange. The competition starts and your team's got a bye in the first round, so you sort of didn't really just had a glimpse at it.
Yes.
So Central Coast and Melbourne Victory drew 0-0. Auckland beat Brisbane Roar 2-0. Newcastle were beaten by Melbourne City 1-0. Western Sydney 1, Sydney 2. Wellington and Western United drew 1-1, and Macarthur 6 against Perth Glory 1. That was the big result out of the weekend.
That is huge.
But so Adelaide play Central Coast Mariners, and a lot of question marks about Adelaide's side. So I hope it's going to take a few weeks to have those questions answered.
Yep.
See how they go.
Obviously recruited okay, but they did also lose a few as well. Yeah. So we have talked with Mary previously about development versus trying to win it. They're sort of a little bit in that middle range, aren't they, at the moment? That's for sure. They obviously play Central Coast this week, and then next Saturday, which we'll obviously talk about next week, they've got the Western Sydney Wanderers up in Sydney. All right, let's move on to tennis, mate. Local tennis events being played here in SA this week, and a son of a gun was playing, but unfortunately went down in a tough one.
Yeah, had a crack, but just, didn't quite get up in the end, so,
It does happen. The City of Playford, ATP Challenger and the Women's ITF Futures was obviously played, and it's still, I believe, in that final sort of area there. Some big names to look out for: Tanasi Kokonakis and Rinky Hichikata headlining the acts here in Adelaide. So some world-class tennis being played here this week.
No, it'll be good. So, a couple of big names. So, see how they go.
And one last one on tennis. Tennis SA announces, or Tennis Australia with Tennis SA announces the dates and some players for the Adelaide International starting on the 6th of January to the 11th of January 2025. Mate, this year's gone quick.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're already talking 2025.
Yeah. Let's have this. I don't know, it doesn't matter when we put it in, but can we have the golden mouth of the golden foot award of shut your mouth? David Warner's generously said he'll make himself available as an SOS if they need. Would you just shut up, David? Just piss off and fade away.
We might have to get a trophy made up for that one there.
Jesus.
We might add that to the rulebook rant at some stage.
Crap.
I agree. All right, let's move on to baseball, mate. The World Series teams have been decided, and it's New York Yankees versus the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah, that sort of the old, the Yankees, the traditional side.
Yes.
Those of us who aren't baseball fanatics,
well, you know the Yankees.
Always the Yankees.
You know the Yankees.
Yeah, go the Yankees.
No, don't say that, mate. I'm a Red Sox man, and we're not there.
Yeah.
It's promising to be an all-star sort of clash. There's some
big
names to come out. The Dodgers host the first two games, Saturday and Sunday, starting at around about 10:30 a.m. Adelaide local time. So if you haven't got much to do on a Saturday and you want to watch some quality baseball, definitely
There'll be a few people watching it at the Arkabar too, I would think.
Yep. Might be a place to go.
Yep.
All right, let's talk some SANFL news to finish us off today, mate. Not only have the Norwood Footy Club lost a few players just recently, they're now seeking a head coach after Jade Rawlings accepted an assistant's role with Fremantle.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one because if it happened a little bit earlier, there may be a person you may find has just gone too far in negotiations with Melbourne in Nathan Bassett may well have been coach. So, a little bit strange. I've got feelings here. Norwood from going from the start of the second semi to the end of the grand final, it's not the finest 2 weeks in Norwood Footy Club's history.
Yep.
And, I'll leave it there.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I probably have to, but I'm... Yeah.
Any front runners from your point of view at the moment, or is it cast the net wide and far and see what happens?
I think they'll cast the net wide and Fury. Look, I have heard a couple of ex-Norwood names come up. Whether that means much, Darren Pfeiffer's name's been thrown around, and Paul McCormack's name has been thrown around, and Jimmy Allen. But I think Jimmy Allen, we will try and get him on because we should have done that anyway in terms of congratulating him for winning for Werribee.
Werribee, yep.
His name's also been thrown, but I'm not sure. I think he may have already signed an extension there as well.
Yep. So, we'll see how it goes anyway. Keep an eye out for your local club as signings happening over the next couple of weeks. Probably the big one for us is Payneham Norwood Union have been the benefit of some of those players that are looking for a little bit more work-life balance.
Yeah, Sam Morris has gone. Sam Morris, Mac Bauer. Mac Bauer's played last year or so in the country, probably just wants the less travel.
Yes.
And Isaac Houston there as well, so with Jeremy Seeney. So, yeah, a bit more of a Norwood flavour, or even more Norwood flavour at Payneham Norwood Union.
Let's talk golf. Local players having a good hit out at Wollonga this week as part of a PGA Tour event.
Yeah, and Craig Martin's involved in that.
Yes.
So, yeah, all the best there.
Absolutely. And to finish us off, we did talk a little bit last week about your dinner party for 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, I admit I forgot all about that.
No, that's okay.
No, I will do that this week. I apologise. I'd forgot all about it.
No problem, mate. It's no problem at all.
I admit it. This week's been a bit stressful in other words. So, otherwise, yes.
All good. All right, mate. Once again, we've got through another episode. Yeah. Again, we thank our sponsors. Like per usual, if you haven't liked, rate and subscribe, please do so. Mate, I thank you for your time. And as per usual, we promise to do better, and we'll see you all next week.
And thank you, Peter CAREY, as well. And, yeah, thank you. Thanks, folks.
Absolutely.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.